The prayer we just sung together sets us up quite beautifully for the passage that we're going to read this morning, Luke chapter 6, verses 1 through 11. We started the new year thinking about how we are following after Jesus, the true light of the world, and we've recognized how this is such a wise decision as we hear Jesus proclaim in his initial sermon in Nazareth that he has come to fulfill the very words of Isaiah. He is the Spirit-filled person who has come to bring the blessings of God to all sorts of people. And so last week, we recognized the incomparable opportunity Jesus has given to us to join him in his ministry of fishing for people. So we said, we are on board, we are following with you. And this morning we find that Jesus' ministry, his vocation, his work, is rooted not only in Isaiah, in coming to bring the blessings of God, but it's rooted all the way back in the very creation of this world. And so we read together from Luke chapter 6, the first 11 verses. One Sabbath, Jesus was going through the grain fields, and his disciples began to pick some heads of grain, rub them in their hands, and eat the kernels. Some of the Pharisees asked, "Why are you doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" Jesus answered them, "Have you never read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, and taking the consecrated bread, he ate what is lawful only for the priest to eat. And he also gave some to his companions." Then Jesus said to them, "The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." On another Sabbath, he went into the synagogue and was teaching. And a man was there whose right hand was shriveled. The Pharisees and the teachers of the law were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus, so they watched him closely to see if he would heal on the Sabbath. But Jesus knew what they were thinking and said to the man with the shriveled hand, "Get up and stand in front of everyone." So he got up and stood there. Then Jesus said to them, "I ask you, which is lawful on the Sabbath? To do good or to do evil? To save life or to destroy it?" He looked around at them all and then said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He did so, and his hand was completely restored. But they, the Pharisees, were furious and began to discuss with one another what they might do to Jesus. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. We need to imagine something for a couple of minutes this morning. Let's imagine that when we arrived today to this building, we found that the doors to the sanctuary were locked. We showed up, we could not get in from the south doors, we could not get in from the doors leading from the hallway in, could not get in this door. Everything was locked. I found that to be somewhat strange. And not only were they locked, but it was under guard, more of a mall cop-ish guard than a UN guard. But there was a guard by the door, and we were talking with this guard, and we found that not only was the sanctuary locked, not only could we not get in, but we found that everything that we're used to finding in the sanctuary had been removed. Offering bags, speakers, microphones, piano, keyboard, drums, guitars, technology in the back, hymnals, the Bibles, everything had been taken out of the sanctuary. We're puzzled, so we're asking this guard, well, what's going on? And what we find is that the denominational leaders had decided that in order to keep our sanctuaries in the Christian Reformed denomination as pristine and as special and as sacred as possible, they had decided that no longer would we have easy access to the sanctuaries, especially on Sundays, because of course on Sundays is when they're at the greatest risk for wear and tear. So we're going to lock them down on Sundays. We're going to remove everything out of the sanctuary because, we want to keep these places, these special places, pristine and almost sacred. We'd be puzzled and we would be very, very upset. We'd want to get on the horn with our denominational leaders and say, "What are you thinking? Why are you locking down this very space that we come into to worship? You want to keep it from wear and tear, but it's only used properly when we're in here doing what we're supposed to be doing. Why on earth are you locking this place down?" Every fiber of our being would be saying, if we can't worship in this space, then what good is it? And we'd be right. And that gives us a sense for what Jesus is doing in these two episodes on two Sabbath days. Jesus, we find, is putting himself right in the middle of things on two different Sabbath days, drawing attention to himself and to his actions. On the first Sabbath, he's walking through some grain fields with his disciples. They're hungry, so they pick a head of grain and they rub it in their hands, and then they eat the kernels. Sounds a bit strange to us. We think of how nice it would be to go to the farmer's market on a sunny Saturday morning and pluck whatever looked good to us, maybe a peach or some cherries or a strawberry or two, and just walk along eating it without paying for it. We think, well, that sounds kind of nice. So it's strange for us to think that the disciples are able to just go through these grain fields and pick and eat. But that was okay. The law made provisions for that. The problem, at least in the eyes of the Pharisees, was that they were doing this on a Sabbath day, on the day of rest, on the day when, according to the accumulated traditions of the day, nothing, no work, was allowed to be done. And in the eyes of the Pharisees and the keepers of the tradition, what the disciples were doing constituted as work. And so the Pharisees asked the disciples a question: why are you doing what you're not supposed to be doing on a Sabbath? And quite interestingly, Jesus, who has not been asked the question, who appears to be being ignored, maybe the Pharisees are sick of hearing from him already, but Jesus, who's not in on the conversation, he steps in. And though the disciples are asked the question, Jesus answers, almost as if saying, I'm going to be part of this conversation whether you want me to or not. And Jesus answers the Pharisees by saying, haven't you read what David and his companions did when they were hungry? Now, of course, Jesus knows that the Pharisees, of all people, have read what David and his companions did. That was recorded in 1 Samuel 21. The Pharisees know what they did, but Jesus knows that they need to recognize something. Maybe something that they're not really all that excited to recognize at this moment. Because what Jesus is pointing out is that even though David and his companions ate the bread that was only lawful or permissible for the priests to eat, well, David and his companions, they ate this bread, and they weren't punished for doing so. The priest said, okay. Which Jesus is reminding the Pharisees that although there's this law in place, that apparently at times there are exceptions to this rule. David and his companions exhibited that. And the point Jesus is making is that now, even though you're saying that we can't do this on the Sabbath, there's a great big exception now, actually. And it's because of me. It's because I am the Son of Man, and it's because I am the Lord of the Sabbath. Meaning that whatever I say is permissible or lawful on this day is what's permissible and lawful. So you need to listen to me. Now, the Pharisees are not at all happy by this, but their silence speaks volumes. The little story that Jesus has recalled from David and his companions basically proves that, well, the disciples are okay. There is an exception. Now the Pharisees got to figure out what to do with it. Then, Luke fast forwards to another Sabbath. Pretty typical day. Jesus is in the synagogue. He's teaching. Appears to be a fairly straightforward service. Though there's a man there with a shriveled right hand, his dominant hand, his productive hand, his strong hand, and it's shriveled. We get the sense that this man is probably just there as any Sabbath day. The custom is to go to the synagogue. The custom is to sit and to hear the teaching of the day. He's likely not coming to the synagogue on this day looking to be healed, but there he is. And the Pharisees are there again. And this time they're spying on Jesus. That's what's really going on. They're spying on Jesus. They're wondering is Jesus going to heal this guy? He didn't have to be healed on this day. The accustomed tradition said that if somebody was in need of healing, if their life was at risk, then it was permissible to heal on the Sabbath. It's quite likely this man with a shriveled hand has been living with this disability for some time. He's not coming today looking to be healed. It's not a life-threatening situation. This could wait till tomorrow, and wouldn't that be nice for everybody because the tension in the room would stay down? But Jesus isn't willing to let the tension stay down. Jesus calls attention to himself one more time and to this man. So he tells the man to stand up. He does. And you imagine this guy's thinking, come on, I did not ask to be put in this situation. What is happening here? Don't give me those looks. And Jesus draws attention to him. And he asks the Pharisees a question. He knows what the Pharisees are thinking, so he asks the Pharisees, is it lawful, is it permitted to do good on the Sabbath or to do evil? To save life or to destroy life? Well, the Pharisees aren't going to answer. So Jesus tells this man who's standing in the middle of the room now, the center of attention, Jesus says to the man, stretch out your hand. Well, what's he going to do, right? Is he going to acknowledge Jesus as the Lord of the Sabbath, or is he going to feel pressured by these authorities, these Pharisees who are trying to keep things very neat and clean on the Sabbath? Well, much to this man's commendation, he stretches out his hand, and Luke tells us that his hand was completely healed, which is very good news for this man, and it makes the Pharisees furious. They are in a rage. They can't think straight. All they can figure out now is, what are we going to do to this Jesus? Who does this man think he is? Well, Jesus has already told them not only who he thinks he is, but who he actually is. He's the Son of Man, and he's the Lord of this day. Meaning that whatever he says is permissible for this day is what is permissible for this day. And so if he says it's permissible to heal this man, even though it's not life-threatening, then that is permissible. We find the tension around this day. What is permissible? What is lawful on this day? And we find that Jesus actually has quite a bit to say about this. In these two episodes, we find that Jesus is almost as puzzled and frustrated as we would be if we found the sanctuary locked down on a Sunday, emptied out of all of the things that we're accustomed to finding in here to help us worship. We find that Jesus is entering into these Sabbath days, and it's almost as if he finds that the Pharisees and the keepers of the law have been busy at work removing everything out of these Sabbath days that only find their proper place, or really find their proper place, in the Sabbath day. We spent 2 Sundays this past summer thinking about Sabbath, thinking about rest and work. And as we thought about the Sabbath day through the lens of Exodus 20, we remembered that this command in Exodus 20 is rooted in creation. It's rooted at the end of the week of creation, the 7th day, where it says that God rested on the Sabbath day. And we recalled the fact that this is not a way of saying that God was so tired at the end of 6 days of creating everything in this universe that he simply had to rest and take a nap. That's not what it says. Because at the end of 6 days, God is able to take a wide angle look at everything he has created, and he says, oh, very good. Very good. And so on the 7th day, when we read that God rested, the picture we're supposed to get is that God now, in taking the wide view of all that he has created, is delighting in this world he has created, and now stands as something of a grand conductor, and is leading all that he has created in something of a grand and a flourishing and a beautiful symphony, delighting in all that has been made. And by the time Jesus comes, it's on the Sabbath. Jesus knows what the Sabbath is all about, to remember that, to remember the point of creation, to remember the goodness of creation, to remember God's delight in creation, and to share that delight, to live into that delight. That's what the Sabbath is all about. And yet Jesus comes and finds that the Sabbath has been emptied of so many things that are proper in the Sabbath. We almost get the sense that in Jesus' mind, what he is thinking is, on what day would it be more proper to pluck a few heads of grain and rub them and eat them and to satisfy your hunger? On what day would it be more proper to stretch out your hand and have it restored, have it healed so that you could fully use it again? On what day would it be more proper to do that? Because this invites us to remember back to the very beginning, to the goodness, to the flourishing of creation, and to bring it all into this day, the Sabbath day that's inviting us to remember that. So what day would it be more proper to do these things? That's the sense we get of these passages. That Jesus, who came to fulfill the words of Isaiah, is coming to fill the Sabbath back up, to fill it up with all of these things that are so very proper to this day, so that we might recognize God's goodness, God's delight in creation, and experience that, be intentional in experiencing all of that. But not just so that this one day becomes so special, not just so that this one day becomes so unique, so different from all of the other days. Because as we remember back to Luke 4, just a couple chapters ago, As Jesus is in the synagogue on a Sabbath day, reading from Isaiah, and he's saying, I have come to preach good news. I have come to proclaim freedom. I have come to give sight to the blind. I have come to set the captives free. What we find, all of these things that Jesus said he's coming to do, all these things that now seem also fitting to do on the Sabbath, we almost get the sense that Jesus is coming to do all of these things, to fill up this one day, this Sabbath day, so full of all these things that are so proper to it, that it can't help but overflow and burst the boundaries of this one day and permeate every moment of the other 6 days as well. To take this one day that is set aside by God for us to remember back, to remember how the world was created, the full delight of it, the full goodness of it, that we might take that day and remember and fill it up so full of things that cause us to remember God's goodness and to experience God's goodness and to give thanks for God's goodness, so that we are so filled on this day that we can't help but have that overflow out of the one day into the other 6, so that our Sabbath experience shapes not only what we do on this one day, but it shapes the way that we work, and it shapes the way that we study, and it shapes the way that we interact with our families, and it shapes the way that we make purchasing decisions, and it shapes the way that we care for the environment. And so, of course, on this Sabbath day, Jesus knows that it's proper to worship. Where else are we going to find that experience that causes us and invites us to go back and to remember the true story of this world and to think about God's good intentions? Of course we are to worship. But Jesus is also filling this day up with all sorts of things that are going to help us to live into that, to experience such joy and a wonder of God in this world that God has created, so that every moment of the other 6 days are permeated by that goodness as well. In our discussion groups following our service this morning, we're going to have an opportunity to reflect on that, to think about what does it mean to observe the Sabbath? What does it mean to keep the Sabbath? How do we do that? How does that impact our other 6 days, so that our other 6 days become to be Sabbath-esque as well? But right now we recognize that Jesus, this one who comes as the Lord of the Sabbath, comes to bring this very rest into not just the one day, but to every moment of our lives. As we think about Jesus coming to fulfill the words of Isaiah, we find that Jesus is fulfilling all of this, and in doing so, he's really actually embodying the very essence of what the Sabbath is all about. Such that what Jesus does is always proper on the Sabbath, but we know that Jesus isn't confined to the one day, but that Jesus came to shape every single moment of every day of our lives. And so the invitation from Jesus is always then, come to me. Come to me. I'm the Lord of the Sabbath. I'm the one who exudes Sabbath. I'm the one who embodies Sabbath. I've come so that you might have rest, true rest, in the widest sense that you could possibly imagine, so that your life with God, and that your life with one another, and so that your life in this world is more than you would ever dare dream possible. That's the invitation Jesus extends to us in inviting us to come and in inviting us to find life and rest in him. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your goodness and your generosity and this world and the life which you have created, life that goes so far beyond what we might even think is possible or even imaginable. And yet we find Jesus coming to restore to this one day that you have called us and invited us to set aside, a day in which we are called to worship you as the God and the giver of life, to experience the true delight and the joy in it, so that we might always carry that tune with us, not just on this one day, but throughout the other 6 days as well. Because you call for us and envision for us and want to give us the same sort of life that so filled Jesus and overflowed from his life into the lives of others, a life that was marked by rest and a life that gave rest. So as we continue to encounter Jesus, as he continues to come to us with an invitation to follow after him and to do the things that he is teaching, we pray that in doing so we would truly find rest. And to put our finger on it again as if to say, oh, that's what it's about. Thank you. So we pray that he would be our vision, that we would recognize his vision as so clear, so good, and so life-giving, that we find that we just want more and more and more of it. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. We invite the